Started. Good morning. Welcome to the September 10th Downtown Action Committee hearing. And if we could please start with a roll call.
Veronica Barducci.
Present.
Brian Laura.
Present.
Michael Bax.
Present.
Brian Chagas.
Present.
Roger Jansen.
Present.
Samuel Grace.
Present.
Let the record reflect that Gregory Gabriel and Nick Mielich are not present.
Okay, thanks.
Or Kim Doe, sorry.
Okay. I guess welcome, Veronica. I guess maybe I missed a meeting. I'm not sure, but
Thank
it's
you.
your first meeting or no? It
Correct,
is.
first meeting.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want to be chairperson? Okay, here we go. Roll call minutes. Do we have minutes in the packet from August? Did anyone have any comments?
Motion to approve the
Okay, is
minutes.
there a second?
Second.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the August meeting. Okay, I'll second.
Okay, good. I wasn't either, so I don't think I was.
Okay.
All right, motion second. All in favor of approval of minutes August 13th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 3, report from city urban designer. Hear from Claudio.
Good morning, everyone. Claudio Avencito, urban designer. One of the updates that I have for you is the work that Siscovich has been doing, which is related to the DMP update. They have making progress. They already done public meetings, and now they are going to have individual meetings with the mayor and commissioners in the next month or so. There will also be a work session with the mayor, which is a public meeting on October 20th, presenting, the initial changes that might be coming forward with the DMP update. And we have a tentative date for them to be here presenting to you on December. So more updates to come.
Okay. Great. Excellent. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh.
I think we already know, but we would like to welcome the newest board member, Veronica Barducci. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you would like to say something about your background, that would be great.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to working with everyone. Just joined first meeting, as Claudia mentioned. I'm a commercial real estate attorney, I work in Boca for a real estate investment firm. I've been living in downtown for about almost 5 years now, so I've had the pleasure of watching the city grow, and I'm really excited to work with everyone to watch it to continue to grow.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Ex parte communication. I guess today's case, does anyone have any ex parte for today's case? Okay, seeing none, we'll note that for the record. And if anyone is here regarding that case that needs to be sworn in, that's not already sworn in, which I don't think there will be because it's staff, right? Yep. Okay, so moving on, here we go for today's revision case 25-09. City initiated request for text amendment to Chapter 94, and if we could go ahead and have the presentation for that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, we got a couple.
I have to
Go ahead.
recuse myself from.
And Sam as well?
Yes, I also need to recuse myself from case number
Okay.
25-09.
So noted.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Could have stayed in bed. I don't know.
We'll see you next meeting.
Okay. All righty, here we go.
Okay, so this is court revision case number 2509. This is a city-initiated request for a text amendment for the Section 94-134 Downtown Master Plan Housing Incentive Program, which is underneath the Article 4 of the Downtown Master Plan Urban Regulations. And again, my name is Claudio Avencito, urban designer. So a little bit of background about this. The actual DMP Housing Incentive Program was adopted in June of 2021. This was a collaboration of creating this incentive program between the Housing and Community Development Department and the Planning Division. Since then, we have had around 4 projects coming and participating in the housing program. And this is, again, to make affordable units on the downtown more accessible for anyone living in the downtown. These 4 projects that came forward were only for rental projects, which is the reason why we are proposing additional revisions that are related for sale projects, but also making some changes into other regulations into the downtown housing incentive program, which I will explain a little more after this. A very brief overview of how the housing program works. This applies to projects that would like to participate on a transfer of development rights program for any project that would like and is eligible that would like to receive additional development capacity and additional height, and they are constructing residential uses. From that additional development capacity, they will have to set aside a certain amount for restricted units that will be affordable for the income levels for 60 and 100 area median income. This program also allows them to choose into different ways of how to comply with the program. One of them is in the project they are proposing, they can just build those additional units on site. They can also choose to construct them off-site in a different site. They can be within the downtown or any other areas that are part of the housing program. Or they can actually make a contribution, a payment in lieu contribution to the housing trust fund. This is the way that it works. We do have an implementation guide that has a lot of details on how this works. That is actually really helpful for developers to actually understand how to calculate this GBA set aside, the different options that they have, and other requirements that they need to follow. One of the actual amendments that we are proposing for this section is, like I said before, is to establish for sale residential project requirements. We are making a very clear distinction for rental and for sale projects in the DMP housing program. And we actually receive an application for a project that is for sale residential projects. This is a condo development in the Nora district, and they are choosing to make a contribution to the housing trust fund, meaning a payment in lieu, that option they are trying to do. So in this amendment, we're going to establish that formula to calculate that fee. And that formula will be reflecting the difference between the average market rate home price and the affordable purchase price applicable to the MIA levels of each unit. And I can explain it a little bit more. The way that the market rate home price will be established, it will be based on the midpoint between the SHIP program, maximum purchase price, and the home program. This is a lot of detail that I'm giving to you, and we have tried to calculate some of these numbers too, related to a specific project, but also related to how the housing community development program works in different in other initiatives and other incentive programs related to housing. The affordable purchase house will be calculated based on the applicable income thresholds. It will be assuming certain things like the fixed rate mortgage rate of 30-year, have an interest rate of 6.5%, and also will have a minimal downtown payment of 3.5%, which is consistent on the standards on the underwriting practices. Property taxes will be estimated at 1.6%, and also factoring 5,000% for homestead exception. The insurance also will be projected 1.5. Again, all of these calculations is just to establish what will be the affordable market price and also the market rate home price. And again, between the gap between those two, it will be the actual amount that the developer will be making that contribution per unit. The other change that we are bringing forward to you is before the payment in lieu option was for any type of development coming through. For this one, we are only going to have that available for sale projects. For rental projects, we'll have the two options of having them on site, constructing them on site with the same project, or constructing them off site. They will not have the option to have this payment in lieu because, again, most of the development that is coming to the downtown is really for rental. So we want to make sure that restricted units are being constructed as development comes in, residential development comes in. The other change that we are making into this text amendment is updating the MIA structure for restricted units. Right now, the actual program promotes the construction of housing for families with income levels between the 60% and 100% of the MIA of the downtown. And as you can see here from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, we have the 2025 income limits and rent limits. If we actually see the highlighted, this is where we will see per household the income levels that we have from 60% to 100%. And I'm highlighting here what will be added, which will be, we're proposing to extending it to 120%. And I'm going to explain a little more about this. The reason why we're doing that is because we do know that we want to expand eligibility to moderate income households that actually reflect the workforce in the downtown and the housing needs that are happening right now. And that between the income levels of 80% and 120%, we are having this missing middle that is not keeping up with the market. So we do want to expand that eligibility for people with those income levels to still continue to live in the downtown. So if you can see here on the bottom of the slide, you will see, again, we're making that separation between the rental projects and for sale projects, which is something that you will see in the text amendment and the actual section that I provided you as attachment 1, that distinction between both of them. The other change that we're making is the extending the affordability period. Right now, the affordability period is for 20 years, meaning those restricted units will have to stay affordable for 20 years, but we are expanding it for 30 years. Again, this is to make it more accessible for longer time for people who are taking advantage of these units. Other revisions will be the acceptable locations where off-site construction of restricted units can happen. Right now, the places where projects can opt to construct these restricted units are within the downtown master plan or certain areas nearby downtown master plan. Some of them are on the north side, some of them are on the south side. That will remain the same for rental projects. But for sale projects, we want to provide a little bit more flexibility because we know that the cost of land is a little higher in the downtown, so we're going to expand it to the whole city. So if a project comes through that is for sale and would like to opt to construct them off-site, they can do it anywhere in the city. Sure.
I want to have the record reflect that we had 2 board members join.
Yeah, Greg Gabriel.
And as part of the staff report that we provided you prior to this meeting, we did have the actual changes as an attachment 1 of the section. Those has been revised based on the city attorney's feedback, and I can provide you with the revised version highlighting those changes that the city attorney made. So I can give you that. So this attachment was provided to you before, and the way that we show these text amendments is anything that is underlined is new words that we will be putting in the section, and everything that is struck to, it will be deleted from the section. What is highlighted in this attachment is what the additional revisions that came forward from the city attorney. And some of those are related just to, again, a little bit of, if you can see on page 2, it still talks about the affordability period. It makes that distinction from rental projects and for sale projects, that they just need to comply with the regulations that are mentioned above. The E section where it says that all restricted units shall be finished completely, including elements such as but not limited to appliances, finished doors, et cetera, that is also language that is part of the implementation guide, so that is just being put into the section. And then the other main section that they have, the city attorney has added to it, is the section of administration and enforcement that is at the very end. Related to court revision case number 2509, staff recommend approval of this case based on the findings that the proposed amendment complies with all the amendment standards found on section 9432.8 of the zoning and land development regulations. These proposed amendments provide clarifications for requirements of developments for sale units, and also expand the MIA levels and affordability period and revise existing regulations to ensure that housing affordability is more accessible for residents in the city of West Palm. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Yes, very good, thank you. Not sure if we have anyone in the audience, any public comment on this, but it doesn't look like it. But we checked, so we'll close that, have discussion now with any questions for staff or anything? Anyone have any questions?
I had a quick question on the extension of the affordability period. What happens once those units' time frame expires? Do they go to market rate, or is there a process that allows them to be extended further for affordability?
So my understanding, I have here the director of.
Good morning, and for the record, Jennifer Ferriel, Housing and Community Development Director. Unfortunately, that is something that we often see when some of these units tend to, go past the affordability period. They do turn into market rate, unless the developer comes back to the city and requests some other type of incentive that would require an additional, extension, whether it be 10, 15, 30 years. Those units do turn back or are transferred to market rate units.
I'd have a follow-up on that one, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Greg, yeah.
Yeah, my question is regarding the highlighted part and related to the question you just asked. The other member just asked. Most of the recommendation, the 30-year restriction, because you mentioned you're targeting 60% up to 120%, typically, if funding gonna come from Florida Housing or Palm Beach County, I believe their minimum requirement is 50 years restriction. So possibly that can help keep them affordable for a longer period of time. But it's up to your own evaluation to see what may be best.
Yes, that's a great question. In the event that the developer were to utilize other, whether funding mechanisms, whether it be Florida Housing Finance tax credits, or they were to pursue county funding in a specific amount, there are requirements for an extended affordability period. So they would have to be or adhere to those restrictions as well. So the 30-year affordability is strictly based on their ability to get additional building capacity or to take advantage of this particular incentive. Now, if they were to go to the county, if they were to pursue funding, again, if they were to go to Florida Housing, pursue funding, if they even came to the city and requested other incentives outside of the land development regulation incentives, we would require other, whether it's extended affordability period, more units, it depends on the negotiations. But yes, to answer your question, there could be a reason for an extended affordability period on some of these units.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. Maybe I'm not understanding this. So if someone qualifies as a buyer, they can buy a unit and flip it the same day and make a profit on it?
No, we would put a restriction on the unit where it would have to be occupied by the specific individual for a set period of time, be it 30 years. In the event that they were to sell the unit, then that unit would have to be then sold to a person that meets that criteria as well.
Okay, so the 30-year period does apply. So if someone buys it, for them to sell it, the other person has to also comply.
Correct.
Okay, I wasn't clear with that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So just a quick question on the duration. Why in general, because I'm ignorant to this, why is there a limitation? Why wouldn't it just be permanent?
30 years is the standard not the standard. It's consistent with our other programs. Ideally, we would want perpetuity. I think we get that question from a lot of the commissioners, but the other part of it is making sure that developers can come in and they could develop these units. I think we found a sweet spot where they are open, or they don't see it as a restriction that's going to prohibit their development. So it's kind of that middle ground where we feel comfortable that 30 years is a good enough period, and the developers we're not getting much pushback from them, and they do want to come to our city and continue to develop housing units.
Does the language of this program follow the language of other programs that have been implemented elsewhere in the state?
That is correct. So everything a lot of the stuff that we're bringing forward is consistent with other programs citywide, where we have seen a significant number of units being developed and brought forward for approval.
Right. Yeah. So in municipalities that have had track records with this, that have been built and occupied.
Yes, and I'm going specific to our municipality. I will tell you there is no municipality that I know of in Palm Beach County that has brought forward this type of incentive program where we're utilizing, and in a lot of ways, going above and beyond what Live Local is requiring, allowing for some flexibilities, but really mirroring the intent of Live Local, but again, making it a little bit more easier for developers to come forward. We have seen success in it in other parts of the city. I'm not even comparing us to other municipalities. I'm really comparing it to programs that we've built citywide that mirror this exact language and these very similar requirements.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? No? Nick?
Yeah, just I guess maybe more of a general question. We had an interesting discussion about affordable housing recently at the office, and a couple of really interesting questions were asked. I'd like to just share for the board's benefit and everyone. Affordable housing is a complex problem that's community-wide, yet it seems to be laser focused on developers and builders to fix that problem. And I had not heard that comment before, but I thought it was a valid point because, at least in my experience and anecdotally, I haven't seen Live Local work. I haven't seen big, successful projects solve the problem. And it doesn't solve the problem because it's a financial issue. And it's a loss for all the builders and all the developers, it seems, and that's why they don't do it, and that's why it doesn't work. So if there could be maybe a focus or a consideration on solving the problem from a multifaceted standpoint as opposed to trying to go to a financial entity that's trying to make a profit, a builder developer, and putting it on him and us in the stagnation of not having the housing we need. So I just offer that as a comment, in terms of maybe considering other creative solutions. The other comment was, in affordable housing, I think the goal is to be in an economic state and then advance yourself, increase, better your life. And I've heard issues where if you get into the affordable housing and you sign up for one of these deals, whether it's 15-year or 30-year, you're kind of trapped and you're locked into that, and you're assigned as somebody that you can only qualify for affordable housing. So it sounds like your question, or that question, was answered in terms of if I was in that situation and I wanted to sell that unit, I would have to sell it to somebody that's in the affordable housing pool to keep that system working. So I think I don't really have a question. It was just really more of a discussion and an offer to consider different perspectives as opposed to this sort of low-hanging fruit solution that seems to be in the community of just kind of going to the builder. Right. So I offer that as a comment.
Mr. Chair, if I may follow up on that. I think I exist in the affordable housing space. First, I would like to say I think City of West Palm Beach have done a pretty good job trying to create a mix of housing, even with the booming downtown. I feel that they have a good mix of market rate and affordable. And part of the challenge, even if Live Local came in and trying to create increased units, but you also create the challenges for commercial, industrial sites, and even now church sites, that there's this magic number that your site is more valuable. So increasing the cost for land make it harder for developers to actually underwrite the deal. And because your rent is capped at certain percent of AMI, it's harder to make the numbers work because the cost it takes to build a market rate is the same cost it takes to build an affordable. So it's a challenge for cost and trying to provide a product that looks like it's the same quality as a market rate, because you want your uniform across the board. So I think the challenge is it's more so on cost of land, and the incentive is limited at the state level and the county level. The $200 million bonds can only do so much, and the award at the state level can do so much. And this incentive here, really, it's a great part from the city trying to make it better, more attractive, to kind of create a mix of units. And so this is probably a good approach, and West Palm Beach have always been ahead of some of the most creative things to actually create more affordable and the city. So this is a good part of good policy from the city, even with 30 years, because you don't want to make it your policy not welcoming. So the 30 years, I would love to see 50 years, or I would love to see a tier system. But like Jennifer mentioned, if you're gonna go get funding at the state or the county, then you also have those policies that require you to do 50-year affordability period. So that's my comments.
If I may add, Vice Chair, sir.
Oh, please.
I want to add that I think, a couple things with our program. Our program is not a requirement, so we're not necessarily requiring developers to come in and fix the problem. We're simply incentivizing their ability to increase their building capacity. What, from my opinion, I think where Live Local doesn't work is because of the percentage of affordable housing that's required on a project. They require 40% of your entire building to be set aside at specific income levels. We only require 50%, or I'm sorry, 20%, I'm thinking of this program, of your additional density. So that's a significant reduction, but we're still getting a significant amount of units. So we're not overburdening the developer, we're actually incentivizing their ability to do more units, but just setting aside a small percentage for the workforce. I want to say that, yes, while we do have a 30-year affordability period, that doesn't mean that a person is going to live there for 30 years, right? And I'm saying that, I know we're talking specifically now about the for sale product, but we've seen a lot of success with our for rental product. And that's why we have different AMI levels or different tiers of individuals. And I want to say that this isn't just affordable housing, it is workforce housing. If you look at the AMI levels, you're also looking at folks that are making $80,000, $70,000, $90,000. And I share your point in the sense that we should be incentivizing and working with folks to have that upward mobility, right? And we should be working with them to get them educated or have them pursue other jobs, yes. But it comes to a certain extent where no matter how high you go, let's just say as an educator, you're also capped. And you're looking at a $90,000 a year of folks that can't afford $3,000 bedrooms at the downtown for a one bedroom, or units in the downtown for a one bedroom. You have firefighters, teachers, professionals that can't afford market rate, and that's the kind of housing that we're trying to bring forward. And you're talking about, folks that have doctorate degrees, master's degrees that are just not there yet, and that's why we're trying to bring this housing forward. And I think what we've heard a lot from the business development community is we don't have enough affordable housing to support the workforce that's coming, the admin assistants, the support staff, the waiters and waitresses that are working in our restaurants. That's the housing that we're bringing forward. And we're not, again, putting that necessarily on the developer. It's an incentive that they choose to either participate or not. So I hope those points kind of bring some clarity. But yes, affordable housing is a complicated discussion, and we could sit here all day and talk about it. But I am happy to talk about it offline if you'd like to.
I appreciate that, yeah, and I didn't want to be negative if I was. I just wanted to just kind of bring up those points, and I think with that support, and if it helps people and extends opportunity, I'm all for it for sure. And then one last point is, affordability and traffic are so inextricably linked, right? If you solve the affordability housing, you take a lot of people off the road and they don't have to, transfer as much. So I thought that was also an interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions for staff or Jennifer? Nope, seeing none. Would someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I move that the Downtown Action Committee recommends approval for code revision case number 25-09. This motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the staff report, and the findings that the proposed amendment complies with all amendment standards found in section 94-32 of the zoning and land development regulations.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Yep, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's it for today.
I'd like to propose a new business.
Yeah, let's, anybody have any discussions?
Yeah. Something to discuss perhaps for our next meeting. I presume we don't normally, as part of our approval process, approve road closures for new construction. I'm presuming that. What I'd like to find out is, can we condition approval based on the extent of road closures that are allowed? I travel around the world. I've been to New York City. They build skyscrapers and they don't close the roads. We build a 10-story building or a 5-story building and we allow road closures for 2 years. I'm seeing this on Datura Street with the project we approved in February of 2024, specifically MCM 324 Datura LLC. I would like to be able to discuss at our next meeting what happened, whether we could have done anything different, and if we can do anything different in the future. I can send you what I'd like to see, if that can be circulated, if it's approved for us to discuss it. I'd like to see our approval, what actually we approved. I would like to see what right-of-way permit was submitted to DOT and any approval from them. And since it's going to be closed for more than a year, I'd like to know if the City Commission approved that road closure, because they are closing one lane of Datura Street certainly for well over a year, and their staging site is across the street, so throughout the day, including rush hour, they're closing the other lane on Datura Street because they're moving things back and forth. I see it all day long because I live a block away. I don't know if we could have done anything different, but when friends of mine complain about, you're on the DAC and you allow this, at least I'd like to be able to say, not anymore, or I'm sorry, it's out of my hands.
Yeah, I think you guys can respond, but I think historically we've left that up to the construction
Yes,
department in terms of, but I couldn't agree more because we went through the same thing on Quadrille here with the Vine project. And that's a great point you bring up, and I would like to further this discussion as well.
Good morning, Ana Maria Ponte, Development Services Director, for the record. Thank you for your comment. Definitely is not something that the Downtown Action Committee has purview about it. What you're talking about are construction-related closures. Is not, the DOC will review when the applicant, as part of their project, is requesting an abandonment of a right-of-way, for example. So that is a permanent closure of a street to be incorporated as part of the new project. That will be part of the review by the Downtown Action Committee. The construction closure, that is basically maintenance of traffic, and it's administered and managed by the engineering department. I'll be happy to talk with you, receive your comments, and I will transfer it to them. We know with more projects that are coming downtown, it's becoming an issue. And we know, I can tell you that the engineering department is trying to work very hard with the construction teams to minimize the closures. We have had those discussions internally. I mean, like, people have talked, like, in New York, nobody closed the streets for the constructions, or even the sidewalks. We have that discussion from the planning department, like, why are you allowing sidewalks to be closed for so long periods? They could do the scaffolding on top or something like that. So the city is already looking into that. I can definitely talk with you and receive your comments and forward to the engineering department. And I know they are exploring more options and being more strict. They increased the fees for closures a couple of years ago, I believe. But I can get somebody to get back with you and explain how they work, and also listen to your comments because it's important information. You live downtown, you are highly impacted by those.
Can you tell me, did they obtain City Commission approval to close the road?
They don't. It's a construction management permit.
Right, because I went through the whole,
Right away for
I went through the
construction?
city code,
I don't.
And it says for any project for more than 1 year, they need city commission approval.
Well, it may be that, yes.
So in some instances, it just have to talk. I'm sorry. So in some instances, it would go to the city commission. In others, it won't. It just depends on the length of time and what the project is.
Okay, because this one's clearly more than a year.
Yeah, and I say that only because I've worked on resolutions that have gone to the
Right.
commission that have for closure. So, but it is an issue which is usually taken care of by engineering, not planning. So it's primarily their purview.
But if planning was to say, we're not approving your project unless you agree with us that you're not going to close the road, you're not going to submit an application to do that, are we allowed to do that?
I don't think that's not part of the zoning code. Nothing in the zoning code that is related to closures of roads for construction.
I understand, they may not come to us and say we want approval to close the road, but can we say, we're not going to approve this project unless you agree you're not going to close the road?
I think we will have to talk with engineering first before I can give you an answer and discuss with them and see what is the process that are following, what are the restrictions. I'm not 100% familiar with what are the regulations for the closure of the right-of-way related with construction. And we can discuss with them and have something back.
So why do we allow them to close the road?
I mean, usually they present their work schedule and they require, I mean, they need to put their cranes, they need to put them, the sites downtown are tied. And I know maybe we'll have to explore. There's other cities that do not allow those extended periods of time. So we have to maybe explore and see how can we tie that up so they don't close them for longer periods of time. The downtown sites they are building every little square inch. So at some point, they will have to do something and close the road and close the sidewalk to be able to build the building. The buildings are right on the back of the sidewalk.
Then how are other cities
Good
doing
point.
it a different way?
I don't have that information. We can talk with the engineering department and
I'm not an
explore what
engineer, but
other
certainly it's
perspectives
possible.
are. Yes.
It might need to be a part of a larger discussion with the city commission, engineering coordinating with planning, maybe reaching out to local people who are impacted. Like it may need to be elevated to a policy discussion.
Yeah, I think it is setting a bad precedent because once one construction team sees the ability to take this open space, then they can do that. It makes their life easier, but there are ways to do without it. And once you give it to them, they might maybe close the road for a couple of days for deliveries, but once that has that permanent closure, they're all over it.
Can I make so part of the process is to create a MOT or maintenance of traffic plan. So maybe the recommendation is trying to approve, whether at engineering or planning, that MOT plan sort of outline a path that maybe a scheduled closure or a temporary closure, not a permanent closure. I know once the engineer submit their MOT plan, then that's how they bring a third party to actually bring the barricades out to basically execute that MOT plan. So maybe it's iteration of the plan. So because we have tight site, we don't have enough space. So maybe at the policy level, it's reviewing that MOT plan to see how can we not permanently closing a road down. And I think that's the way to solve it, because if it's not gonna come to us, then the MOT is what get approved that the city engineer will sign off on.
I mean, the engineer department has the process for the MOT. There is something that is called the construction management plan. They have to submit where not only how is their staging, but also where their workers are gonna park, all the construction workers, how's the staging, what roads, all that. It's get processed and approved by the engineering department. I can tell you they work with them and try to reduce the number of days that they have for closures, but definitely it's coming more and more because we are having experienced more and more projects downtown, so it's impacting more residents. So that is something that is being discussed.
Is that something we can see when we get future applicants?
I think at the time you see the projects, it's early for them. At that time, it's just they are going through the site plan approval. Right. They don't even have any contract or hire to do that.
They wouldn't know that until they, I think, go in to apply for permits.
Yes.
That's when that decision is going to come in after the approval here. But as a board, you could make a recommendation, a general recommendation as a board, even though you're not tied into the process, essentially. So that might be an avenue to, get conversation going with the city commission about how those decisions are made.
Can we ask that the project come back before us once they do submit the permit? And condition our approval upon then seeing what they actually submit?
I think because it's not in your purview right now, ask that, but if this board thinks it's important, maybe it's something that should be discussed at a higher level about getting the board to have a say in those things.
Higher
you
level.
don't.
Or
Right.
maybe, I hear you loud and clear. We're gonna raise the concerns. It may be that is not the purview of the board, but some directions that are given by the city commission and policy changes are directed to minimize the impacts or costs on the surrounding areas by the construction closures.
I know some other municipalities require construction management plans for large-scale projects, and they incorporate into their design the ability to comply with road closures and, to maintain maneuverability around a city.
They do.
And that becomes part of the
Yep.
approval process before you get to the building permit.
They have a construction management plan. They are required and present that and apply for a permit. That is the construction management plan, and it's an MOT. All that is part of the requirement, but it's part of the approval process of the building permit. It's not at the planning phase.
So with a future applicant, we can say, thank you very much, but we want you to come back before us once you have a construction management plan? Are we prohibited from doing that?
Again, I don't think that is the purview of the Downtown Action Committee. The powers and duties that are assigned to the board are not that part of the discussion. So you are reviewing the compliance of the projects for the zoning code. That is not part of the zoning code, it's the engineer code, and you don't have a purview of that. But we are hearing you and we will raise the issues.
Yeah, if we can make some sort of formal recommendation to staff to address
Right.
this concern as a concern of ours
Totally.
relative to what we're approving.
Mr. Chair, Anna Maria, do you think it makes sense to have maybe, for the board understanding overall, maybe a 15-minute presentation from traffic, and then we can make our recommendation then to them, like what we would think, and staff can take it at their execution level to see how to implement any of our recommendation. Maybe a presentation might help.
We can definitely talk with the engineering department and bring somebody from staff in the engineering office to explain you how they manage the construction management right now and what is the requirements for the maintenance of traffic and what are the rules that they apply and how it follows, yes.
Okay, if you're doing that, can you ask them to specifically address that project that I raised? What happened?
That's the Datura on Dixie?
Yeah, it's MCM 324 Datura LLC. It's case number 23-14 DMP 00021-2023.
Sure. We can do that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Michael. Okay, any other discussions?
Yep, I got a quick question. I'm not sure if it's a city thing, but it might just be part of the discussion, and this is just personal landscape architect talking here, but when you get off of 95 on Okeechobee and you go towards the downtown, essentially the entry to the city, the threshold to the city, there's a bunch of bad, dead royal palms that look terrible, and it is embarrassing as a landscape architect. So others might not be focused on that, but I kind of focus on that, and I think there's probably nowhere else in the world where you go into the Capitol or the main part of the city and you get a bunch of dead palms and nobody's taken care of.
Yeah. Has that been investigated? I'm sure someone's looked into it because there are a lot of dead ones.
I have noticed. I have to tell you, I have to talk with the Parks and Recreation. I think they are in charge of the maintenance of that and try to understand if they have that already on the schedule for replacement or what is.
Is that city or county? That was one thing I was wondering about.
I think it's FDOT, but it's maintained by the city because we installed those palms and that landscape with a grant from FDOT, I will say probably 10 years ago, that those palms are relatively new. So but I'm 90% sure that is our responsibility to maintain it based on that.
And it's an overall maintenance thing, just not to beat a dead horse, but there's dead ones, and then there's other ones that are just like, wind whipped, and they're all just brown and gray, and it just looks bad. It looks terrible for the entry for our city. So just if that could be looked at, I really appreciate it.
Yep.
Doesn't downtown now contract out with a new company that's handling that?
That is, you're talking about probably the DDA contract for
Yeah.
cleaning. That's not part of the DDA. That's definitely outside the boundaries of the DDA.
Right, but the DDA now has a contract with some company that's maintaining downtown. I
Certain
think.
areas of downtown, yes,
'Cause
not
I'm not,
all.
I would walk my dog and have palm fronds fall close to my head downtown all the time. It's not happening lately because there's a company that's been contracted through the DDA, and that's why downtown looks better than it did. Maybe the city needs to consider contracting out with some other company or with a company.
I was going to say, on the contrary to the Okeechobee, the program that was implemented maybe 20 years ago, there are a lot of streets that look really great. Like Parker looks amazing, the Canopies, Clematis coming from, you know, up the road, up the hill looks amazing. So it's working great in situations, or others that just need attention.
I mean, the
a lot
maintenance
of
is always a challenge. I mean, the budget for maintenance is always under stress. There's never enough money to maintain all the things that we're doing. So.
And my suggestion would just be priorities. You got a bunch of money. The priority should be on what everybody sees coming into our city, and then everything else is secondary to that. So that's my opinion.
I hear you.
And we're right back to the road conditions as well, potholes on Flagler. Anyways, that's another day.
Enough beaten up for one morning.
Anyways. All right, anybody have any other items while we're here?
Yeah, tomorrow is I guess, sad day for our country, but I also want to say tomorrow is also my birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Okay. If that's it, we'll wrap it up. We'll adjourn today's meeting. Thanks, everyone, for your time. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it as usual. Everyone have a good day.
You.
See you next month.